night in executive session. We're now ready to resume our meeting with the public portion. We had no correspondence addressed to the full board this week. President's report, first of all, starts out on rather a sad note, but also celebratory. I want to remember several people who have passed away since our last meeting. The first one is Paul Purnham, who was a long-time teacher of photography and other things here at Glenridge High School. I think they said 42 years. He retired maybe 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. He was also the coach of our tennis team and a long-time employee, loved by students and parents. I remember his funny story about being hired as coach of the tennis team when he had very limited tennis experience. But he seemed to, on that basis, turned out winning tennis teams. So he was a lovely man, very much missed. Then many of you know Elaine Rosnella, who teaches kindergarten over at Forest. Her husband, PJ, died over the weekend. She's a long-time gem of our system, and so our sympathies go out to Mrs. Rosnella and her family. And finally, Carol Clayton, who died recently at the age of 94, who was also a Glenridge employee at the high school, probably retired quite a long time ago because I can't find anybody. Paul Plummer probably would remember her, but also I'm sure very much missed. So 3 members of the larger Glenridge Public School community who have left us since our last meeting. And so please remember them in your thoughts. I also want to, as some of you who were here at the last meeting know, I read out elements of our policy on the recommendation of our school board's representative, school board's field service representative. And this pertains to public meeting, public comment. So I'm just going to, because repetition is one of the key elements of learning, and I'm going to read them out again in brief. Public participation shall be governed by the following rules. A participant must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface his comments by an announcement of his or her name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable. Each statement shall be 2 minutes in duration. No participant shall speak more than once on the same topic until all the others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements, questions, or inquiries shall be directed to the presiding officer. The presiding officer may interrupt, warn, and/or terminate a participant's statement, question, or inquiry when it is too lengthy. Interrupt or warn a participant when the statement, question, or inquiry is abusive, obscene, or may be defamatory. Request any person to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person prevents or disrupts a meeting with an act that obstructs or interferes with the meeting. Or call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Or waive these rules when necessary for the protection of privacy or to maintain an orderly operation of the board. And that is the President's report. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I just want to recognize Paul Purnham also. I taught with him when I came back as high school principal. I was with him his last year here at the high school. Terrific gentleman, had a great sense of humor, Hall of Fame inductee because of his coaching. Just very positive for the staff and the students, very well loved and respected. Always had the best Halloween costumes, I always say that. His last year he dressed as Flo from Progressive. It was a terrific costume. Just always put a smile on your face. He's going to be missed. We had several events that happened recently. I just want to recognize them. Last week we had Abilities Awareness at Ridgewood Avenue School. I want to thank the Grace parents and Mr. Donovan. I know there's other events happening in the other buildings also. We had a speaker, Dr. Yallen, come on last Tuesday, and then a movie was shown on Thursday on Temple Grandin. So it was nice to have some student events, some parent events, and a lot of parents volunteers. So it was a terrific week. Guys and Dolls was put on by our middle school team, and it was just a terrific production. I had an opportunity to go and see that and just left amazed there. Our Model UN team has ended the year with another great showing. They won the Best Small School Award at the Seton Hall Conference, and we had 2 individuals take awards that there also. Later in the agenda, we're going to accept donations. I want to recognize one donation in particular. The Glen Ridge Congregational Church made a focus on raising funds to buy books under the hashtag 1000 Black Girls Book Initiative, which is a project started by a West Glen student, and they donated $900 worth of books to our school. So we're very excited for that, and we're glad to accept their donation. And we have a spring sports starting, so a beautiful day like today. Hopefully, if you have the time, you go out and catch a game. I happened to be down at the girls lacrosse game, and they were doing very well at halftime. So it's exciting to get out, see the girls and boys in action. And when you have weather like that, it just makes all that more enjoyable. Construction-wise, just to give you a quick update, Central's moving forward. It's again, I would say it's probably a little bit ahead of schedule. There hasn't been too many big bumps. The contractor has been wonderful in keeping us informed, and hopefully we keep moving on that pace. On Friday, we're going to start an abatement project at Ridgewood Avenue to prepare for the HVAC that will happen at the end of the school year. And I have on the agenda 2 bid proposals for HVAC projects at Linden and Forest. So hopefully that's our last bidding that we have to do for quite some time as far as construction is concerned. And we're happy with where the bids came in. Lastly, I want to present the school safety data system numbers, and this used to be called Violence and Vandalism Report and HIV Report. The state turned around student safety data numbers for the first half of the year, for the second half of the year. So these numbers are about the incidents that happened from July through December. So in the past, we've had to go to a separate system to file, electronically file our reports. The state combined the system for this school year. So you're going to start seeing the new term school safety data system when we start looking at these reports. For the first half of the year, typically what we find, what is the pattern, at least in Glen Ridge, is there's a limited number of events the first half of the year. And that's because July and August, typically we don't have any events because we're not in session. And then we're looking at 4 months compared to 6 months the students are in school. Typically at the beginning of the year, the students are a little bit better behaved because they're adjusting to new environments, they're getting used to their surroundings, and they're just trying to fill each other out and get a better understanding of what might be new peer groups for them. We find that in the second half of the year, we're seeing uptake of the number of events that happen. So for the first part of this year, we had 4 incidents at the high school. 3 of them were related to substance. We had 1 confirmed HIV. We also had another HIV investigation that wasn't confirmed. So a total of 5 events. And just to break down those events, the first confirmed HIV at the high school was a type of verbal event, and you can see the different categories it fell under, causing it to be an HIV. And we don't talk about the discipline when we have a low number of events because it becomes identifiable to the individual. So we don't want to mention discipline that might relate to one individual. As far as other incidents of violence and vandalism, as I mentioned, we had 3 incidents at the high school. They all fall under the substance category. They were 3 vaping incidents. And no incidents at the other schools. affirms all 3 incidents that we had were substance in nature. As far as our anti-bullying specialists, you can see who they are in all 4 buildings. Those 4 specialists are trained throughout the year. There's meetings throughout the year so they discuss different situations and scenarios to make sure that we're all on board. Frequently we'll have the administration join them on the training, and the administration will participate in the HIV process. As far as the summer HIV training programs, you can see what has happened in each building. We do offer a lot of different types of programs, whether it's training the staff, the HIV specialists, administration, whether they're going out to workshops, whether we're having programs within the school that is promoting positive citizenship and character. To have that many events is just a testament to our focus on developing the student as an individual and as part of the community. Some examples of training and programs we have, and if your child attends these schools, you're probably all familiar with these different programs. Everyday Counts, Yes I Can, Upstanders, the high school, besides the sports captain's team meeting, we have peer leadership, middle school mentors, cool kids. So there are lots going on, and as I mentioned earlier, the administration and bullying specialists are trained and meet throughout the school year to discuss the process and making sure that we're staying on top of any laws that may have changed or just been adjusted based on court rulings. Typically, we would share with you our self-scoring based on our HIV process and the programs we have in place. We do have to submit that to the state. Last year and this year, they've been a little bit slow getting back to our self-scoring numbers. So when we do receive them, I believe last year we got them in the end of April, May, when typically we got them at the beginning of the calendar year. We'll share those numbers as soon as they are received. That's it.
All day violence and vandalism in the report, and then on any other agenda items. So, board members,
Yeah, I remember last time we asked about the training programs and the things that had been developed in response to the last safety report.
The what programs? I'm sorry.
The trainings for the staff or programs you have for the students were based off of the incidences that were having in school. If there's response in terms of either training for the staff or events for students. And I'm curious if that's...
So with the training with this programs we have for the students, if we're noticing a trend, we're typically will bring in people to present to the students. Last year, we brought in 2 cyberbullying speakers to speak to the students and to open it up to the parents at night. So, and that tends to be a typical trend, at least in this district, a lot of cyber-related incidences. We've had vaping presentations. It's we do being a year. The police head came in and spoke with and the new principal spoke to the high school by grade level to discuss their expectations. As far as training with the staff, we've done training with vaping at Ridgewood Avenue and with the high school staff, with the HIB situations. Again, if we're noticing situations, those are something that were addressed with the staff. As far as getting the anti-bullying and administration together, we're constantly looking not only at trends in this school, but outside of this, in other districts to see things that we need to be aware of as we're moving forward.
other questions? I'm sorry.
It looked like a lot of the training that was done at like the elementary level and less as the grade level progresses. I know I was quite a few slides back. I mean, that seems a little counterintuitive with the fact that most of our kids seem to be middle school.
So we definitely have more programs at the elementary, and that's a little bit about developing character and understanding of your responsibility as a student and as a citizen in the school community. So we're trying to hit them early and develop those traits. And as you find as they go on to the middle school, we've probably offered more of a program lately in the last couple of years as we're looking to redesign the middle school a little bit more so. I think when you start looking at high school, because academics are such a focus, it's whenever you're offering programs, they're missing courses. And you know, if you're pulled out of your one class and let's say it's your Algebra 2 class, but your afternoon Algebra 2 classes are meeting, it kind of gets people off their pace. So we want to make sure that, you know, we're offering programs where we're not pulling them too much from the academic programs, where in the Ridgewood Avenue and the Forest and Linden, those type of opportunities are a little more flexible with their schedule than they are in the high school. We're also seeing a lot of what's happening at the high schools happening with their involvement in clubs and athletic teams and musical programs, where they're really getting a lot of leadership opportunities, and their coaches and advisors are a bigger part of it, so that's happening after school hours.
Dirk, in terms of education, cultural change, I know we also sometimes have parent programs. Can you talk about a little bit about what you've done in that regard?
We've had, as I mentioned earlier, last year we had a couple of programs on cyberbullying offered to the parents. I know Ridgewood Avenue School has done several programs, really smaller in nature, for the parents on a variety of topics. At the high school, you typically see, beginning of the year, we have guidance breakfast, parent meetings where those topics are discussed. And frequently at the homeschool meetings, principals or will be a topic brought up by the homeschool president.
Okay. Other questions or comments from them? Okay, questions or comments from the audience. Mr. Dron, your hand was first, then Mrs. Salah. Mr. Dron, and I saw you too.
Harris Turan, I have children in the district. Are you able to go back a couple of slides to the numbers? Could you explain?
I'm not sure which number.
That one's good. That one's good. Could you explain other incidents leading to removal?
We haven't had any.
Could you explain what that means?
It could be a variety of issues,
Where a student leaves the school?
or we might have to have a student removed from the school.
And that hasn't happened in these numbers?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I got the time period too. It's in this time.
Well,
I'm looking at that time period as ending December 31, correct?
removal in the sense of expelled.
Well, is that what that means? Only expel
Yes.
or temporary remove from,
Correct.
like,
Either
you just
expelled.
answered it two different ways, so you
Expel.
can't have it both ways.
Removal in the sense of expelled.
Removal in the sense of only expulsion.
Correct.
If a student is removed for other reasons and comes back, it will not, that student will not show up on that.
No.
That doesn't seem to reflect that, though, in that title. Then shouldn't that title be expulsion?
Right.
I guess we could name it expulsion.
Well, I'm just trying to keep student privacy private, so I'm trying to be very cautious with my words, Mr.
Mhm.
Phillips.
We
but-
haven't had this incident, so
Are you sure? I'm not talking about expulsion.
I hear what you're saying. I'm saying we haven't had this incident. We haven't had an expelled student.
You haven't had an expulsion in that time period.
Correct.
Have you had students leave the school and come
I'm not
back?
gonna get into individual students.
Thank you,
Any
Mr.
student.
Tron. Mrs. Sala.
Well, one comment and then one question. Are those columns, the wording, are they straight from your safety data system, the verbiage in them? You know?
Yes.
Okay,
Those
so-
are what we
So you're
require to-
using the exact same word that the state gives you, other incidents leading to removal. So you're not going to change it to expulsions because that's the wording that the state gave you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And Greta Sala, Glen Ridge. I wanna-
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I do have a comment on something else you discussed, but I certainly want
Can
Anybody
we-
who wants to talk about.
Let's do this one first, then I'll come back.
That's fine.
And I saw another, your hand.
It's for the general public comment.
Oh, okay. Any other comments on the student safety data system report? Other than Mr. Tron, I'll get you, Mr. Tron.
Appreciate it.
No? Okay, Mr. Tron?
Do you want me to reintroduce myself
No.
every time?
We've got your name, thank you.
So if that's the state's wording, does the state say that that wording is about expulsion only? Is that, because you just said it's only about expulsion, and that's the verbiage from the state. So does the state say that it's only expulsion?
That's typically what, for disciplinary purposes, that's typically what removal consists of.
Typically, but is there atypical situations when it's not expulsion, counsel? You didn't announce yourself either.
She,
You already recognized me, so thanks.
Do
Some
you have-
people may not recognize.
this is
It's the
Athena
board
Cornell,
attorney.
who is.
Counsel, is there an
legal counsel for the
atypical
Board of
time when
Education.
it's used and it's not an expulsion? Because you said it's typically expulsion.
Well, when you look at the disciplinary statutes of New Jersey, the expulsion is the sort of official avenue of removal of a student. So that would be in that category.
But are there,
That category is expulsion. Mrs. Sullivan?
Then why don't they say expulsion up there? To be honest with you, this sounds like a time when maybe you're not sure, and it might be worthwhile to go back and look, and maybe Mr. Phillips could let us know. Because to me, if they were to say expulsion, why wouldn't they just say expulsion? I found those forms to be very clear.
The state rarely, the state tends to euphemize. But we certainly can, I think that, what
We can
is.
definitely go back and double check.
yes, please. May I just have one more follow-up? Last one, please?
Sure.
Do you know when, so you, Mr. Phillips, you said that you see less incidents in the first half than on the second half. And
Correct.
this is from the summer forward. When do you do the reporting on the second half? Is it this school year, towards the end of the year? Or, so we're gonna have to wait until next year to hear about all the naughty stuff that happened in the end of the year? Because you said it happens to be more stuff happens at the end of the year. Are we gonna be able to hear about it this year?
It goes out to, that report goes to the end of June, so we wouldn't report till after June, which we wait until the fall.
So let me just reference for the record that I think for high school right now, we're up to, at least to my knowledge, HIB number 13 is the last HIB that I know of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments on the student safety data system report? Okay, now there were questions or comments. Let's take you first because I saw your hand from the beginning. Then I'll take you, Mrs. Hall.
My name is Jocelyn Gottlieb. I'm a Glenridge resident and a parent of 3 children in the district. One actually was out of district, one at Ridgewood and one at Forest. I just wanted to say a few words as a parent who was involved with the Abilities Awareness Week planning at Forest, Linden, and Ridgewood, that I want the Board of Ed to know that I think it was a really positive experience for everyone involved, and it took a huge amount of work from parent volunteers, teachers, administration, representatives of student services to kind of get it off the ground and involve 4 full days of activities across those schools, as well as interspersed events and evening events. And what I heard back from students were things like, oh, that's like me. Or they'd see a poster in the hall and be like, he has ADHD, I have ADHD. Or things like, God, I just can't imagine having to concentrate like that, right? Like there were so many moments of recognition from parents. I had people approach me and say, my child came home, they told me more about this program than I've ever heard, and it opened up this whole conversation about a family member we have who has a disability. I could go on, but I basically want to just say that when we talked last year about the climate and the climate in Glenridge around special education, we talked about a piece of it being part of that survey. I think this program can go a long way towards getting visibility in the district and across the district of what it means to have a disability and how varied those are. And I just wanted to ask the Board of Ed to consider how it might support the administration in continuing this program and expanding this program to the middle school and high schools. I think it would be a very different format. in addition to supporting the parent volunteer efforts, also putting some infrastructure and capacity behind it in order for it to be a sustainable program and not something that ends when the parents who are involved become overloaded. We are doing a follow-up survey of parents and at each of the schools, as well as the principals are going to do teacher surveys. And so if anyone is interested in hearing more about that feedback, Tracy and I can talk, and I'm happy to share that with you.
That would be great if you could share it with us and through Tracy, that would be wonderful. Thank you, and we will take your suggestions under consideration, so thank you. Mrs. Sala?
Yeah, I do have one HIV that I didn't get to, and then one other comment. And it's on this slide. When you were talking, you said that there were, quote, a total of 5 incidents, which I can add it up. There, obviously, we're only talking about the high school. 3 plus 1 is 5, yet under total incidents, you have 4. So is that a math error, or does it
Because
reflect?
the HIV alleged is not
Right, it
considered
doesn't
an
count?
incident. Correct.
Okay. Then let me make a comment on the public statement that you read at the beginning of the meeting about public meetings. I had a little opportunity to do some research, and obviously public meetings, including Board of Education meetings, are public for a reason. It's my understanding they're meant to promote the discourse about whatever the topic is, and therefore hopefully help facilitate the best running possible of whether it's the town or the Board of Education. So public is a key word there. Also my understanding, I mean, there's rules in New Jersey, as you well know, about public meetings. And one of the things is, my understanding is they're to be content neutral, meaning if you have rules, like say your name and you have 2 minutes, you need to apply those same rules across the board, whether you like what the person is saying or not.
Of course.
And, well, you don't always. I brought this up before. You do not have a content-neutral gavel. I've many times seen you slam the gavel down on people when you didn't like the content, or let board members go on and on, something that if a resident said it, you would be offended and slamming the gravel down. So, and I'd be happy to point out to you on the tapes where this has occurred. So I would just urge you to please be content neutral, apply the rules consistently, be mindful of the rules in the state of New Jersey about this, because you certainly wouldn't want to appear to be discouraging people from exercising their First Amendment rights, would you? These rules are meant to support people's First Amendment rights. I also just want to comment that I noticed that the last couple of meetings that you've had the police here, it's been a good thing, because those meetings were the only ones where we haven't had a member of the board have shocking outbursts. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any, let's see, first, you, yes.
Diane Preston, resident planner. I want to reiterate what Jocelyn said about
Sure, thank you.
how wonderful the awareness week was, how much my kids got out of it, how much I heard about it from my kids, and also that I really wish my middle schooler and my high schoolers had the opportunity that, you know, it wasn't there when they were younger, and I've seen that. So it'd be great if we could find something to at least do with the older kids in coming years. Jocelyn, just want to publicly thank her for the amazing work that she did. She spearheaded all of this. She ran the fairs all week. I don't think she slept for 2 weeks. And that I don't think she has any more bandwidth to take on another school. So hopefully we can get more people involved in the future. So it's fantastic. And thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Jocelyn. Mr. Trine.
I have a few things, so I'm going to try and do one and then
Two
let you
minutes,
go to
Mr.
other
Trine.
people. Per
You
item?
did not make other people into.
That's okay.
2 minutes
For all items?
for all, if you're asking one question before other people get a chance.
Okay, that's fine. I wanted to also comment about your opening statement about decorum for the people in the audience, and note that the past 2 meetings, you never talk about the decorum of the board members or have the rights of the public have certain rights of how you all need to behave yourselves. And you don't mention that ever, but you keep mentioning how we're supposed to behave. So,
I'm reading from our policy.
I know, is there a policy about how the board members are to interact with the public as the public is to interact with the board members?
I will certainly look it up and get back to you.
Okay, that's my first topic, you can go to
Okay.
others.
Yes.
Thank you. Charlie Breslin, Glen Ridge Children's School. Can we comment on anything on the board or ask questions about anything on the agenda or just that we've discussed?
This is the time,
I was just curious when it came out, have we never, is there no, because I noticed this concept of the SHIF and the school board for health insurance.
Yes.
And what have we done before? Does every district just go out on their own before? And we've,
Some districts do, you can be, and Barbara knows this better than I, but you can be in the state health benefits plan for school employees, which is a very large, obviously, operation. Or if you can do equals or better than coverage, you can go out and seek health insurance in the private health insurance market. Many districts do that. Barbara, if you can talk a little bit about the SHIF.
The SHIP is sort of, it's a pooled insurance group, but it's smaller than state health benefits. There's about 62 districts in the state, so it's just a smaller pooled insurance group that will, we're hoping will sort of stabilize our rates so we don't have these large increases. Since we've had large increases in the past 2 years, we had a 20% increase in health benefit costs and then a 20% increase. So we're hoping to get into a group where we can sort of stabilize the increases and make them more manageable for us since we're a small district.
And this is the first year that this group has even existed.
No, the shift has been around, we just haven't been in it.
So, and that's thanks to our business administrator. She's been aggressively looking at such risk in the district and trying to manage costs accordingly.
And just, I don't know if, and I can wait to ask the question, I don't know if this is apropos, but so typically are we that much better than the state in, like, how does it differ? And
It changes every year depending on your claims. So you might have a year where they say you can do better in a private, your broker will tell you you can do better in a private, or you can
Really?
do better in the state. It depends on where your claims are.
And by virtue of being a small district, it's true of many of our calls. We're kind of at a disadvantage because only a few faculty or administrators contribute to a
It's-
very high incident.
yeah, I just ask because I guess as a constituent, the state mandates all these tests and everything in the world, but doesn't mandate, it's not leading the way in health insurance.
The state would like everybody to be in the state health benefits plan because it would improve their experience rating, which would make it cheaper. But there are numerous issues with the school employees' health benefits plan. There are two state plans. There's one for just state employees and then there's one for school employees. So districts actually, at this point, many districts have been leaving this, the state plan and going to private insurance. Now, there is a proposal on the books, Senator Sweeney introduced a bill to combine the two state plans into one. Don't know if that will go anywhere. That may change the equation in school health insurance, but no one knows yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Sala.
Yeah, I just want to note for the record that in fact, we did permit this lovely presentation on disabilities or abilities, which my children very much enjoyed that, and I enjoyed hearing that, but it did go significantly over 2 minutes. I was watching it, and I'm glad you let it do that, but again, this comes back to the selective gavel. You stop people who you don't like what they're saying, yet you let people go on when you do like what they're saying, and that is not content neutral, and it's completely, it makes you all look small. People see it, okay? The other thing is, I meant to mention, and you know what, I'll come back to it.
Okay, Mr. Trump?
I have two more topics, but we'll go one at a time. I'm asking about revised B6, and I did notice the revision, which was my first question, but I have two questions on this. One for Mr. Phillips, do you have an approximate number of students that you're doing evaluations on? In previous meetings, you've given me numbers and generalities like that.
No, I'd have to look that up.
Could you, and get back to me?
Yep.
And then, is this new? Did this happen, did we have psychiatric evaluations last year
Yes.
with the same
We've had them
person?
for a number of years.
And with the same person?
There's 2 or 3 that we approve every year and based on availability.
And it doesn't roll into the ESS program at all under their services? It's a total separate service? Okay. I have one other question when everyone else is
Any
done.
other questions or comments? Yes, Mrs. Sullivan.
One other thing I found when I was researching meetings, you have repeatedly told people that they cannot refer to, for example, a principal, Mr. Donovan or Mr. Carabella.
That's right, we do not discuss our personnel by name.
Okay, but let me tell you, you might want to look into that, because what I read was that if you are talking about them in the context, by doing that, you make people not be able to talk about half the stuff that's going on in the schools, which I think is what you want. But if you talk about a person and use their name because they're their principal, and you're talking about the running of the schools, that is permissible. If you're talking about his personal life, his or hers, it is not permissible. However, it is permissible if you're saying, for example, I think they are ineffective at managing HIV.
That would be,
I think I can
we're
speak
going
to
to
that.
agree to disagree on that.
Okay, good.
So, because individuals have rights.
Of course
and
they do.
We're not going to have the board be exposed because people may come to the microphone and overstep or make inappropriate comments. So that's really just not an appropriate forum for that. So that's not something we would entertain. And the same goes for student names.
No, we don't want to
wouldn't
talk about
entertain-
things.
We wouldn't entertain a discussion about student names either.
Well, then I want to say that I believe you are actively discouraging people's First Amendment rights because they are allowed to talk about things as they relate to the correct running or the better running or the improved running or the current running of the schools.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? One more, Mr. Tron?
Yep, this final one, thank you. B12, this is a business question, maybe Ms. Murphy. My wife, the accountant in the family who's working tonight accounting, has asked me to ask if those checks are being voided, and are we taking that money back onto, are we taking those funds back, or should those funds go to unclaimed property for people who just haven't cashed checks that we paid them? So are those checks outstanding for people that have done work that just haven't cashed those checks
They're
yet?
for vendors.
They're vendors, so are we just taking that money back, or are we gonna send them to unclaimed property in New Jersey?
I will look into that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
All
you.
right. Moving along with the meeting, it is the first meeting of the month, so we have committee and liaison reports. Michael, let's start with you.
I have anything. We are still moving on negotiating the contract with GRDA. We recommend the curriculum committee.
Okay, Heather.
Yes, the Lincoln Common School met at the beginning of March. There came for a superintendent question and answer session about security in the district and Central Avenue. They talked about a cat and a hat assembly they had that was very well received and the kids loved it. They have a number of events coming in April and May. The Village Awareness Week, they have Birthday in the Learning Garden on April 6th. They brought back the International Festival, May 2nd, followed immediately the next day by basically Grandparent Day. They're having another Spring Maker Day, that's on May 10th, and the spring concert is May 23rd, and they're talking about using the fundraising for this year for playground upgrades and technology.
Thank you. Anthony.
No committee reports. I just wanted to know that Teresa and I know some of the board members attended the book reading in the middle school, and it was impressive. I enjoyed the book, but the interaction with the kids, and because they drove the discussion, was pretty impressive. I don't know, Teresa, if you.
It was great. It was the third series. At the lower level, they
done Wonder, Krishna Bowl, and now this is the third, and I guess Dr. Harris has spearheaded this kind of school read, which is terrific. And I was delighted to hear, we were commenting about the kids' comments. They were so insightful, and it was nice to hear and to see kids on a Friday night talking about a book. And I think we should continue with programs too.
Okay, thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to Jocelyn's comment that people who didn't even realize that I had a connection with Grace commented on how wonderful that program was, the abilities awareness thing, and how excited the students were about it. So I think it's, and these were people from Montclair actually who had heard about the program and were impressed by it. So I'd just like to say congratulations. I know it was great last year, but you guys seem to have taken it to a whole new level. So it would be wonderful to see how this grows ongoing, because it's my understanding that it was just terrific. So congratulations. And also, I'd like to say that I think we had a really productive meeting on March 20th. Mr. Phillips, Ms. Ginsburg, and I attended a Grace meeting, and we had a lot of wonderful questions. And thank you so much to both of you for coming and bringing your expertise and spending your time with the group, because guys, your knowledge is invaluable. So
Well, thanks to Grace for having us.
Right.
And then the Educational Foundation met in March, and I was unable to attend that meeting, but I did have a one-on-one meeting with Fran Wong, and I got to catch up with her about some of her ideas going forward. And last of all, the Personnel Committee will be meeting on April 23rd.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Okay. So the Facilities and Finance Committee has been busy of late. See that the agenda this evening touched on those topics, both in terms of negotiating new health insurance and some of the developments of construction as well. All will be very favorable for our final budget. Next
April 29th.
session of the board.
Okay, thank you. I went to the Ridgewood Avenue Home and School meeting on March 8th. There were a number of items discussed. The list of things going on at Ridgewood Avenue is so long. But they talked about quiz night, which I think was a great success. Nicole, was it a great success?
It was.
Okay. The Abilities Fair, which everyone was looking forward to at that time. The upcoming Rhino Romp, the 5th grade Maker Day. They talked a little bit about MAC and the need for, which is something that everyone contributes to, so that it's yours matching funds. They gave thanks for the Valentine baskets that went out. They approved some funding requests. There was a display of the amazing pinball machine that every 5th grader was going to create. It was fantastic, and the moms who were doing that were working so hard on it. It was just inspiring. They also talked about what has passed now in Trump's Marketplace, the school safety presentation, Teacher Appreciation Week, which is upcoming. So it was mostly updates on things to come and celebrations of past successes. Steve?
Paul covered finance and facilities. From Gaslamp, to which I am the liaison, they had two productions of Aladdin this weekend for the very, very littlest kids. They were adorably cute. There were also members of the administration of that out to support, and it was, I think, a real success.
Thank you. Ally?
The High School Public School Association met on Thursday, March 21st. A couple of highlights. Mr. Lawler talked about giving a photographer update for school pictures next year, as well as a testing update. Mentioned the high school and middle school spring musicals, and transition night from 6th to 7th grade was held on before. Talked about the Math Girls Leadership Program, the student council trip for the middle school. They had an opportunity to go to the city to see coming from away. The 8th graders are heading to Great Adventure on Friday for their 8th grade Great Adventure. An ACT prep class just concluded after the success of the SAT prep class last month. Sophomores and juniors are invited to come to an essay writing presentation on the 10th, which I believe is on Thursday evening. There's a PG-19 update, which included the plant sale and an announcement of the May 2nd golf tournament and following party. On May 6th, there will be a potluck teacher's breakfast. The kitchen tour kickoff party was last week, I think, at your house. And the kitchen tour will be on October 19th, if I have that correct. Is that the date? 20th. That's what I have, right. And lastly, they talked about the Arts Festival, which is on May 11th. The Owens School is stepping in to run the arts portion of that this year. And so far they've secured 36 vendors, as well as school organizations, tables. It's going to be a terrific year. I also just have to add that the high school lacrosse team did their big school car wash fundraiser this weekend, and just wanted to say thanks on their behalf for everyone coming out. They raised an enormous amount of money for the team, so very generous amount.
And the scoreboard is back working at Watsessing, yes?
The scoreboard is working at Watsessing, and I have to say there was a big, beautiful, I think it was an 18-6 on there today, if I heard winning, so that was good to see. Thank you.
Teresa?
Forest Avenue's never been quiet. They're very busy first part of the year, and they've done, they have the awareness program, which I think is terrific.
Okay, thank you. All right, you have some administrative items on the page here. And first, you have the minutes from March 18th, executive and regular session. And as you recall, we had 2 executive sessions on March 18th. Michael, would you move the minutes?
I would, although I wasn't here, so I have to move and abstain. I move M1.
May I have a second? Preferably from someone who was here.
Second.
Second, okay, second from David. No changes, additions, I looked them over, I didn't see anything that stuck out at me. Any changes? All right, Barbara, when you're ready.
Mr. Bonnet?
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Luci? Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. DeLue?
Abstain.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Romano?
Abstain.
Ms. St. Aubert?
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, administrative items. David, would you move the administrative items?
Move A1 through A4.
All right, I have a second.
Second.
Second, any discussion on the administrative items other than discussion of violating privacy levels? Discussion? All right, Barbara, when you're ready.
Mr. Bonnet?
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Luci? Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. DeLue?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert?
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, personnel, Tracy.
Yes, I move P1 through P12, which includes oversight and dental.
Okay, and they have a second.
Second.
Any discussion of personnel items is held in executive session. Any changes, any reason why we should not vote on these items? All right, Barbara?
Mr. Bonnet?
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Luci? Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. DeLue?
Aye.
Ms. Lang?
Aye.
Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert? Dr. Yaros Ramos? Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Michael, would you move the curriculum items?
Sure, I move C1 and all of its various subparts.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on these curriculum items, which are field trips in this case? I will note the FEA Educators Rising 9th to 12th students to visit Richard Avenue School. There's been a lot of discussion at the state level about encouraging people to go into the teaching profession. So this is our contribution to that. All right, if there's no further discussion, questions? Barbara?
Mr. Bonnet?
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Luigi? Aye. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. DeLue?
Aye.
Ms. Lang? Aye. Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert? Aye. Dr. Yaros Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye, motion carried. Okay, before we move to business items, I would like to draw your attention to B8, which is generous donations, 30 Chromebook cart plus 30 Chromebooks, Ridgewood Avenue Home and School, and perpetual service licenses, the virtual high school from Glenridge Education Foundation, and as Mr. Phillips mentioned earlier, the donation of books from the Glenridge Congregational Church. So thank you to all of those generous donors. And now, Paul, would you move the business items?
So I'd like to move items B1 through B14, including the amendment to number 6 as detailed on the
Okay, may I have a second? Any discussion? Okay, Barbara, when you're ready?
Mr. Bonnet?
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Luigi? Aye. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. DeLue?
Aye.
Ms. Lang? Aye. Mr. Romano?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubert? Aye. Dr. Yaros Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Abstain on B2C, aye on all the rest.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And now we have come to the second public comment period for public comments or questions on agenda or other items. Any comments or questions? Yes, Nicole, I saw you first.
Finally, I had something to say. Hi, I'm Nicole Quinn. Live in Glenridge, 3 kids. I'm the Ridgewood Avenue Home and School President, as well as the Executive Council Home and School President. And I just wanted to add to what Ms. Lang said earlier about the upcoming Taste of Glenridge Kitchen Tour. Will actually be taking place, just for the record, on October 20th, which is a Sunday. And I wanted to recognize our very generous new co-sponsors, the Amy Owens team of Keller Williams and Montclair, and Whitney H. Roddy Insurance Company will be co-sponsoring our tour, which means that Amy Owens, Megan Roddy Hall, and Whitney Roddy will be our honorary co-chairs, basically. So I just wanted to put that on the record and just have that out for public knowledge so that you can put that on the calendar. We've already lined up, I would say a handful of kitchens. We're working on the vendors. And this tour is going to be a little different than in the past, where we will have a lot more parent volunteers involved. So we are looking for people, different homeschool officers, and people are sort of helping with the overall planning. But there will be, as summer goes on, more volunteer opportunities to sign up to assist. Also, as Mr. Phillips knows, we have discussed earmarking profits from the kitchen tour toward school safety improvements that will be district-wide, so that we will have support from Linden, Forest, Ridgewood, and high school, as well as be shared across the district. Thank you.
Let's see. I think I saw you first before Mr. Tron, Mrs. Sala.
Yes. How, the meeting minutes that are posted often weeks after the meeting, posted eventually on the website, how are they created? Who creates them? Is that the duty of Mrs. Murphy?
Mrs. Murphy, because she's the board secretary.
Okay. I would just encourage whoever is creating them to make sure they capture all comments, not just positive ones, but negative ones too, and frame them in a neutral tone and neutral word selection. And I would also have one more suggestion. Why don't you get Ms. Cornell or her representative tag that says board council, so that everybody in the audience knows who's speaking.
We'll take that under consideration. Thank you. Mr. Tron, did you have a question?
I didn't have my hand.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Unless you want me to come up with one, Ms.
No,
Ginsburg. I
thank you.
can
That's
search my
perfectly
brain and
fine.
find
I
a
just
question
thought
for you.
Keep your
Sorry.
non-question to 2 minutes or less.
Okay.
Yes, Charlie.
Yes, hi. Just this is my first year with the forming of the budget, paying attention as closely as I have lately. So I'm still going through the process. One of the slides that we had 2 weeks ago talked about where possible cuts would be, which included instruction. And without getting into the wherewithal, I spoke to some representatives too, but just in general to the board, that as this is constructed, I think that from my standpoint as a parent, I think a lot of people that if we're going to go into that cost center of instruction, that people be, brought into the discussion before final, even before we get to the April 29th public comment. I think everybody in this room agrees, board, to speak for anybody, that cutting a teacher, cutting an aide, cutting an academic service is just the last thing that any of us want to see. And I know that we're in a very tight pickle because the state mandates where we can spend and where we can and where we can grow and where we can't. So if tough decisions we have, I just encourage, let's start that conversation earlier.
Okay.
Now my hand's going up.
Yes, Mr. Tarad, I knew that you had one.
I would just like to follow up and say that, trying to figure out how to say it without talking about people. There are certain times when we don't have another person for a job, either a teacher, an aide, if someone goes out on maternity leave or on certain types of leave. We're in a constant rotation of fill-ins for teachers, and that can be really disruptive for students. And it's along those lines of we're looking to now thin our budget down even more, and I know we have some aides and personnel who are doing sometimes 2 or 3 jobs, and I can't understand how we don't have enough personnel and we're considering cutting more.
Well, we will have the presentation on the 29th, but Barbara, do you want to add to that or address that at all at this time?
It's a difficult situation to address because we're not done. It was preliminary budget, and we're waiting for some numbers, and we have a finance committee meeting coming up right after break that we're going to discuss this in more detail.
I'm just also talking bigger than the budget, that we don't have an excess of people to cover positions without getting fill-ins who then need to be, apprised of prior situations, and we're always like chasing our tail in that regard.
That's unfortunately a little bit of the way the system works when we can't hire 2 people for one position. So even when we know someone's going out on maternity leave mid-year, we can't hire someone to shadow them for that first half of the year until they go out. This year we had an excessive amount of maternity leave, so we had
And I'm not against, for the record, I'm not against maternity.
No.
Any way, shape, or form.
And it wasn't just maternity leave. We also had some family leave, some medical leaves.
Correct.
This was just, every so often, that 10-year span, we seen this occur. And we do our best to try to fill a position, but there's, as you mentioned, there are certain positions out there that there's just a shortage of individuals qualified for those positions.
And I would note specifically the learning consultants who might be doing double duty and not be able to focusing on the learning aspect of what they should be doing versus some other aspects that they're currently doing. I'm trying to be respectful to the board in what I'm saying there. Thank you.
Barbara, with regard to the budget, can you talk about the timing of when we get our health numbers? Because that has such an impact on how we construct our budget for the health numbers for the next year and how that process happens. As far as increases, decreases, the need to shop coverage, the need to consider options.
We've been shopping coverage for health benefits for quite some time. We've been weighing our options, and we're actually entering into the shift to get a slightly better decrease, but we only found out after we actually presented the tentative budget. So we should have another $109,000 of savings by going into the shift, which we will incorporate into our budget and the public hearing presentation.
So there's a certain amount of fluidity from the first presentation to the final presentation. We don't always know when those numbers will come in, when that fluidity will become a little more solid. And since healthcare is one of our major cost drivers, that has a huge effect on what else we can do. And the fact that salaries and benefits are over 80% of our budget. So the amount of discretionary income we have is not large either. But thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved. Second? Second from Anthony. Thank you all.